Welcome back to Gameday Tarps podcast, episode 17. On this week's episode, we will be discussing the World Juniors beginning. Letang made history in the NHL, top 25 free agents, top prospects list of the top 40, first overall pick odds for the 2024 overall draft, otherwise known as the Macklin Celebrini draft, as he's proving. And our two weekly segments, Game Day reviews and Battle of the Tarps. Let's get into it today, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Pretty good. How was your guys' Christmas break?
It's good. Merry Christmas. Yeah, I didn't even think to say that. Merry Christmas.
It's pretty good.
All right. So unfortunate news to start off was the first news of the week was Leo Carlsson ended up getting injured versus the Flames. He got a grade 1 MCL tear, and he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. So of all the things that don't matter in Anaheim about who's playing and who's not playing, this was about the only thing that really mattered, other than like Drysdale and Zegras finally continuing to play. You know what I didn't even put on here, just throw this in there, is also in Anaheim, the double Michigan day, where Zegras and Bedard both scored Michigans in the same day. So showing Zegras' first game back from injury, he goes and just pulls a Michigan after he saw Bedard do it. So
no, it's not even that, dude. Did you see him? He was talking to a reporter, and the reporter said, "For Christmas, will you give us a Michigan?" And he's like, "I'll try." So he promised the reporter a Michigan. So that was kind of cool.
It was so smooth too, just one motion. Oh, it was such a sick move. I can't. But the fact that we've had two in one day now, this is gonna get scary. This is going to be like an unreal thing that starts happening on a nightly basis. It's going to be like one goal a night is going to be at least the Michigan. I don't think it's going to be this year, but in the next 5 years, it's just going to take off with all the kids that have been doing it that are like, they're 14 today, but in 5 years, they're 19 and they can play in the NHL. It's going to be absurd to think how many guys are just going to be Michiganing as like a part of the game, not just as like a talent that they have.
Did you also see what? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, but that's all that like Zegras shows. He doesn't seem like he's bringing anything more to the table other than that flashy goal that we'll see one in every 20 games.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say, boys, was like the fact that you see Jordan Binnington's response after the game. He posted to his Instagram story with how to stop a Michigan. Like, buddy, you're just gonna go out there and throw a tantrum the next time a guy comes and scores a Michigan on you, or you're gonna go swing your stick at his face. Like,
well, I texted you guys literally that night, and I said, okay, that's it for Bedard, because I noticed it was on Binnington, and I said, okay, sit Bedard the rest of the game. Like, don't even let Bedard go near the net. Binnington's just gonna have a fit on him and slash him or try and take him out. Like,
poke his eye out with the knob of his goddamn stick or something, man.
Exactly.
You know what? I'm glad of all goalies, it was on Binnington. Gotta humble him real quick. Humble him real quick.
He's such a whiner.
Never liked the guy.
No.
But thanks for bringing up that first part about Leo Carlsson, Riley, because now I got to drop him in fantasy. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, no worries. He's out for like 2 months. But let's jump to
World 2 months
now. Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks, or 4 to 6. Hold up.
You have 4 to 6.
4 to 6. Sorry, but still a month and a half.
But still, I mean, he is probably one of their better players.
Oh, definitely. They don't want him out of the lineup. Him and Drysdale, like, they can't keep Drysdale happy, but they got to be like, come on, we can't start having Carlsson be injury prone, just like Drysdale, just like Zegras. Like, some of these guys we're drafting in the top 10 need to start playing for us.
Yeah, but I mean, his was more of like a freak accident. He had someone fall on his leg, so I wouldn't say he's injury prone.
Yeah, Uyghur, unfortunately. Definitely not intentional, you can tell. All right, let's talk some World Juniors here. What a tournament it's been so far. Everyone's 2 games in. Group A, we have Canada, Sweden, 2-0, Germany with 1 win, 1 loss, Finland with 2 losses, which is the big upset because they lost to Germany for the first time ever. Germany was 0-25 until that game. They broke that streak, and Latvia's 0-2. And in Group B, we have United States 2-0, Slovakia, the surprise 2-0 team, Czechia 1-1, and Norway 2 losses, and Switzerland 2 losses. So some of it's going as expected, especially with Norway and Latvia. Switzerland is definitely having a down year compared to normal, but Slovakia and Germany have kind of been the teams to watch for of the tournament so far. They've really come out and impressed.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see like more of these countries produce better talent, right? Like it's not just Canada and the States or Russia just killing it now. You got Sweden in there, Slovakia. I like watching Slovakia now just because well, they got a Flames pickup in there, right? And he's killed it since going up there. What's his name?
Hanzik.
Yeah, Hanzik.
Yeah, he's got 3 goals, I think, already.
I think two
Two?
game-winning goals and an assist, I believe. But
Nice.
still,
Germany just upset Finland for the first time ever at the IHF World Juniors. Like that was quite a story yesterday. Finland, a top team in the tournament every year, and they just got bested by Team Germany. Like no one probably saw that coming out of left field. So you know what? Hey, congrats to them. A new team is bringing some star power and some upsetting to the tournament.
And they'll probably be saved by Latvia, like, because they do play everyone. So they'll end up playing Latvia. They'll probably beat Latvia, which will mean that it'll be Latvia who gets relegated. Finland gets to stay up. But the fact that it probably, like, if Sweden beats Finland, right? So Canada's beat Finland, Germany's beat Finland. If Sweden beats Finland, Finland goes to 0-3, and then it's them versus Latvia for who gets relegated. And if somehow Latvia pulls it out of their hat, we could see Finland all of a sudden get relegated out of the World Juniors when they were considered one of the strongest teams.
Well, here's I'm going to counter that, Riley. I'm going to say Norway because they just got promoted this year and they're 0-2 now. So I feel like it's going to either between Latvia and Norway to say who's going to get relegated first.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, there is the relegation game. So like if say Finland finishes 5th in their division, they have to go play the relegation game versus Norway or Switzerland, whoever's going to be the bottom over there, and the loser of that gets relegated. But it's not impossible right now to see Finland just be shaken and just start falling and falling and falling. But
who got relegated last year?
No one, I don't think. Because of all the COVID rules, they've been keeping it the same teams, I thought. I could be wrong. But someone is coming up next year. No, Norway's up. Someone was here last year instead of Norway.
Probably Russia. They took Russia out.
Yeah, Russia's been out for a couple of years. Ever since the Olympic cheating scandal, they've been out. Even before the war on Ukraine, they banned all Russian athletes from competitions. So that included this one. So they've been out since like 2020, I think. Not allowed to compete.
And like, what a time to have them not in it, right? Because for sure you'd see Michkov in there, and I feel like everyone would want to see Michkov right now.
Exactly. You got to feel for that's why I always think like these are kids. Like, why are kids being punished for what adults have done in their Olympic training program with like the steroids and the cheating and all that the Russian Olympic teams have done? Why are they punishing the hockey players? Doesn't make any sense to me. So, especially because Ovechkin did just go to the last Winter Olympics, right? So,
yeah,
I don't know what to say about it, but who knows? They do have the top 15 player rankings at the World Juniors, and I was going to absolutely roast this list because they ranked number 1 Macklin Celebrini. This was before the tournament started. Before we started talking, I was going to be like, no way that kid's the number 1 player at the tournament. Well, he might be. I don't know what your guys' takes are on it, but he got 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in 2 games. He's dominating defensively. He's making flashy plays. He's making players better that he plays with. He played with Matthew Wood and I forget who else he played with last game, but he was making them. The Rekov. He was the reason that they were getting their goals. He was making space for them on the ice. He was making plays to them. So he's just a driver, and he's really showing he's not out of place there.
I would have argued with Jimmy Snuggerud and Macklin Celebrini, like, going to go head and head until the end of the tournament here as being the 1 and 2 punch of the top 2 players in this entire tournament, honestly, in my opinion.
They don't even have Snuggerud in the top 15, so I'll fire them off quick and we can talk about a
And he
few
scored a
more.
hat trick yesterday too.
I know. One is Celebrini, 2 is Poitras, 3 is Yuri Kulich, 4 is Lane Hudson, 5 Matthew Savoy, 6 Cutter Gauthier, 7 Jonathan Lecker-Mackey, 8 Denton Matejchuk, 9 Will Smith, 10 Consta Hellenius, 11 Axel Sandin Galika, 12 Zeev Buyam, 13 Gabe Perreault, 14 Seamus Casey, and 15 Rutger McGroarty. Now, there's some, like you said, Jimmy Snuggerud's not even on that list, and Lane Hudson or Hudson or however you want to say it, to me, he's got to be like the third best player as well. Like, there's some definite snubs on this team. Like, no Geeky out there for Team Canada. Like, that's a shock with how dominating he's been. Matejchuk definitely deserves to be there. Gauthier deserves to be there. I would argue Savoy doesn't deserve to be there.
You know what? I would even argue that Lecker-Mackey should be within the top 5.
Lecker-Mackey, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's funny too because Gavin Brindley and Jimmy Snuggerud are literally tied for second right now with 5 points, and then Macklin Celebrini's got 6 points. So, what's with these snubs? Who put out this list?
I have no idea who this was. I just saw the list tonight. I stole it.
Just what a shot in the dark in left field this was. Like, I feel like, yeah, like you said, just absolutely roast the hell out of this list. So inaccurate.
Yeah, there's some, like, I mean, Will Smith is a fantastic player too. Like, he was 4th overall last year. How is he 9th on this list?
I mean, given this list was probably made just when rosters were probably finalized, it's probably not off of what has shown.
Yeah, that's true. It was like Christmas Eve, I think.
Yeah, so I could see why Poitras number 2. I mean, he's probably one of the better NHL prospects on that list, and he's in the NHL for a reason. But right now, yeah, he hasn't really shown to be the number 2 most exciting player to watch in that tournament.
No,
I got a dark horse candidate for this list too. Edouard Sale, Seattle Kraken's prospect.
Oh yeah.
And Barry Colt of the OHL. He scored a hat trick for Czechia last game, and he's already got 4 points, and he's already sitting 6th, and he's also almost tied with a bunch of them going to the top of the list here. Like, for me, he's gonna be my dark horse pick to be top of this tournament.
I think we have to see one more game out of him because he played super bad versus Slovakia. Like, they shut him down.
They got blown up by Slovakia 8-1, unfortunately. Exactly.
So I think that we need to see a little bit more from Edward Saleh, or they say Chalet. Apparently it's with the SH is how it's pronounced.
Dang.
But I think...
Yeah, because it looks like Sale, like S-A-L-E, like Sale,
yeah.
So I guess it's the
Saleh,
pronunciation.
But I guess it's Chalet. I just literally heard this yesterday for the first time. I heard it was Chalet. So I was like, oh, okay.
Well, and like the name I mentioned a few minutes ago, Honzik. If Honzik has another good game, even if it's a goal or an assist, I think he should even be within that top 15.
Exactly.
Especially doing it on Slovakia, too, right? Like, you got Canada loaded with talent. You got America loaded with talent. And Lecker-Mackey, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's going to be a stud for Vancouver. And he's showing it in the World Juniors, and same with Honzik.
Exactly. And, like, I respect that, you know what, Macklin Celebrini's playing fantastic, and so is Zeev Buyam on the U.S. But, like, they're probably not better than the guys who were drafted. Like Cutter Gauthier, a top 5 pick a couple of years ago, right? You got Geeky, who was a top 10 pick a couple of years ago. Savoy, the top 10, right? Like, I don't think Savoy's played that good, but you got to have these top 10 picks or top 5 picks kind of be at the top where they should be. And then, yes, you know, maybe Poitras should have been voted number 1 because he was the only NHL player who came back. And then it was Tristan Luneau from Anaheim too. But realistically, Poitras being in the NHL returnee should be number 1 on this list of players to watch, at least. All right, let's jump over to Letang. I don't know, Dali, if you want to take the lead on this one because you are the resident Pittsburgh Penguins fan here. Go ahead and break the historic news on Chris Letang.
Yeah, so it was funny. It was against New York Islanders last night, and he scored 5 points in a span of 7 minutes for the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was crazy. And just to top it off, to feel like he was him, he finished off the night with 6 assists.
Mm-hmm.
Like he fed Gino a couple times, and then he was feeding Puustinen for his first NHL goal, and then he fed Gensel twice too. No matter what Chris Letang did last night, every time he fed a player the puck, they potted it in against Sorokin. It was just nuts. Like
It was one of those
he
one in a
broke.
million games.
hmm It was been like I think 34 years since the last time a player has done this, but also he was the first in
He's the
NHL
first
history,
defenseman.
first
Mm-hmm.
defenseman, yeah, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Like
Which,
5 points in a single period, that's insane for a defenseman. Like
well, and not even that, a
unheard of.
defenseman his age, man. I feel like if you were going to hear about something like that, for sure you're thinking Makar or
Hughes.
Hughes to come off the top of your head to have a game like that and to have it from a veteran like Letang, almost his
Right?
retiring age, and he's,
And
so
to
it's that.
think that even like Eric Carlsson, for example, too, like he wasn't really much on the scoreboard last night. Like, but you would have thought a caliber defenseman such as himself would have had that kind of night. No, Chris Letang, man, that was just crazy,
Just out
way
of the
out of
blue.
left field.
And he becomes the second player in the salary cap era with 6 assists in a game. It's him and Leon Draisaitl is the only two players in the salary cap era with 6 assists in a single game. So even more, props for him because again, a defenseman doing something that a guy who scored 130 points. I can't believe McDavid's not on that list. Honestly, like how does he get to 150 points and not get 6 assists in it? I mean,
You know what?
so
There's still
talented.
tons of time, dude. I think that's going to be a stat that we're going to see hit constantly in
Mm-hmm.
seasons eventually with how superstar teams are evolving now. I don't think 6 point games are going to be unheard of for players.
No, it's going to
McDavid
become the
wishes he
norm.
was Letang.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that Letang wishes he was McDavid with that contract. All right. We do have an update on Ethan Bear. He finally signed his contract. It was estimated 2 years. We got that correct. But he signed for $2.0625 million with the Capitals. So, as we said last episode, good to see him getting another shot. He said he wanted to feel like a team wanted him, and the Capitals did. So, we're happy to see him find a home in Washington and see if that works out for him.
And I hope it does.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
a little bit of fun today was had at the Minnesota Wild practice a couple games ago. Duhaime, in a second period interview, was asked about how Fleury was playing so good at his age. And Duhaime just flat out came out and said, yeah, I don't know how he's doing it at 50. Like, it's incredible. He's so old. Like, just total joke in the interview. And then today, Marc-Andre Fleury was responding by holding a cane in practice upside down and using it as a goal stick. He did not use his stick. So I love how Marc-Andre Fleury is always willing to get in on the fun and be a prankster. He kind of is known as the NHL prankster, especially in his Pittsburgh days. He even pranked his teammates when he just played them the other day when he was the backup. So he's always looking for a good joke, and I think that was awesome that he was having fun with that one.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
should have never been backed up that game.
Fleury's just an absolute gem, man. I mean, he's also at the point of his career where, I mean, he's wearing a helmet that he wasn't supposed, like, he was told he wasn't allowed to wear, and he's bringing out canes on the ice. I don't think, like, he's at a point where he just doesn't care anymore, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's awesome. When you
he's
get
got
to that
nothing.
freedom.
Yeah, he's got nothing to show anymore. Like, he's got nothing to prove. Sorry,
He's
he's
done it
got
all.
everything to show, but, nothing to prove. He's a great goalie, great, I guess a great mentor, I guess, but everyone looks up to this guy, and yeah, no, it's awesome to see him still having fun.
Yeah, especially when he's honestly been bounced around so much lately, and team don't want him here, team doesn't want him there, right? Replaced as the starting goalie for Pittsburgh in the finals 2 years in a row. Like, he hasn't had an easy run, but he's always smiling. He's always having a good time. He's never letting the moment weigh on him. And he, again, like you said, he's a huge mentor for anyone that wants to be a goalie in today's age. You should look at how Fleury approaches the game, just happy and carefree, but still dedicated to the position.
I think he'd even be great on Because I don't like Minnesota. Like they want to be a playoff team. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team. I think a team that's gonna make up the playoffs 100% should probably try to go in on this guy because
Absolutely.
he'd be like Jonathan Quick, right? You play him at the right moment, he'll probably be phenomenal for your team.
You know what? Here's my dark horse. You know who should actually sign him? The Buffalo Sabres. For Devin Levi to have him as a mentor, just as a backup, I think that's a team that should really look into Marc-Andre Fleury.
See, I feel like if you're gonna get Fleury, you almost still need that proven number one starter to be over Fleury, and then Fleury kind of comes in like the Jonathan Quick every now and again that can keep your team alive in these games, right? Especially in the playoffs.
I think
So
that's why it would work, though, because you're looking at Fleury. If you're a GM, you go, okay, you're 40 years old. You've luckily escaped major injury for most of your career. We have Devin Levi. We want him to be the starter. He's the future of our team, but we want you to be the backup and to guide this kid. And Buffalo also has tons of cap space, so they could literally just be like, here's $4 million to sit on the bench for 1 year and not care, right? But to give him, because who's the guy? He's with Uho-Pekka Luukkonen. They didn't re-sign Craig Anderson this year, right? So it's
No,
like,
he retired.
exactly. So it's like, who does Devin Levi have to pull from as an NHL experienced goaltender? It's Eric Comrie, Uho-Pekka Luukkonen, and him and someone else. Like there's a rotation of 4 goalies there, and none of them are gonna help him become a star. And honestly, yeah, after this year, maybe they should look at a Jonathan Quick or a Marc-Andre Fleury or even like a Semyon Varlamov if he's a free agent. Like there's a few guys they should eye.
okay, well if you're gonna say Buffalo, would Edmonton be far fetched?
No, I
Because
think that's
I
a good
could I
call.
could see him going to Edmonton if they're serious, and I
Yeah,
think he would suit that team well.
I think so. I think that he would make a lot of sense, and he would bring a Stanley Cup pedigree for a goaltender, but a lot of carefreeness. That locker room seems so pent up and so nervous all the time and so frustrated. They need a spark in there like Fleury.
Well, and
To be
like
a fly on the wall there.
if Fleury gives them that confidence in the back end that he can make a save, maybe that transpires to what's his name there,
Skinner?
Skinner,
Yeah.
because it looks like in games that kid can get flustered,
Yeah.
and I mean, yeah, Fleury probably hasn't. He's had some bad games in his career, but he doesn't seem like he easily gets flustered. He can still has a smile on his face, so I think that he'd look, yeah. I,
Exactly. You get a
I
goalie in their 20s who doesn't know the secret to finding consistency as a goaltender, and you bring in one of the greatest to be consistent, and you have that guy teach them the trade in their 20s. It's way better than having like a 29, 30-year-old goalie, and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, when I was like 33 years old, this is what I figured out, and it helped me make it to 40. It's like, no, if you can find that out at 25, like Skinner is, or 21, like Levi is, that's way better.
well,
Yeah,
like
and this is a goalie who. Go ahead.
sorry, Dallas. No, go on.
I was gonna say, and you're getting a goalie who also has sole possession of third place on all times wins list. Like he's got the attitude, he's got the cups, he's got the wins on his belt. Like it's just this is an all around goalie that the Edmonton Oilers should be top priority looking at. Rather Buffalo, like I'm sure a lot of teams are gonna want him come deadline if Minnesota doesn't want to keep him around. And here's my other thought I was gonna mention earlier is that Minnesota went to Pittsburgh last week, and that was probably potentially Fleury's last game playing in Pittsburgh. And I got in an argument with someone in the comments because they were going to be doing a back-to-back, Pittsburgh and then Boston the next day. And they're like, well, no, we need Philip Gustafson to play against Pittsburgh. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense because, for one, it'd be a good gesture on the Wild's part to play Fleury. As the crowd
Absolutely.
was chanting, we want Fleury, as his ass is sitting on the bench. Two, it'd be a good gesture And plus, wouldn't you want your starter and Philip Gustafson playing the harder team on the back-to-back in the Boston Bruins? Because Pittsburgh is not a hard team right now. You can
Mhm.
easily beat them. But the main concern was it'd be a good
Unless
gesture
Chris
for
Letang
Fleury
goes
to
off for
play.
6 assists.
Sorry?
I said, unless Chris Letang goes off for 6 assists, then you're never going to beat the Penguins.
Just his old teammates just lighten him up and then he just gets
Yeah.
benched. But you know what I'm saying though? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why they intended to keep arguing the fact that Philip Gustafson should have started that game when the crowd deliberately was chanting, "We want Fleury," but they never gave it to him. I thought that
Yeah.
was just a kick in the face, honestly, on the Wild's part. They should have started Fleury against his old team for one last hoorah.
Yeah, but did Fleury ever come out with a statement being mad about that decision? Like that could have been a personal call too.
The
That's
coach
true.
came
I
out
mean,
and said it was the plan all along. He answered a reporter who said, like, why are you not playing Fleury tonight? He said, sticking to the plan we made, and that was it. That
well,
was his
and
thing.
that's,
So he
yeah,
could have
day
been
in and day
covering
out.
for him.
Yeah.
But I can't see Marc-Andre Fleury not wanting to play that game unless he knows it's not his last game there. He's like, I'm playing next year. Like,
Potentially.
yeah, who knows? Or Pittsburgh, Minnesota Stanley Cup final, and Fleury wins in 7 games. Who knows?
Back to 1991 again?
Hey,
Minnesota versus the Pittsburgh Penguins?
I think Minnesota's got to get rid of somebody though. Like, don't they still have Gustafson, and then they got that first round goalie as well,
Wallstead, yeah, he's in the minors.
Wallstat. Yeah,
That's why I don't think
Jesper Wallstead.
he won't be there next year, Fleury. That's why I think it'll be
that's
Gustafson and Wallstad.
and I mean, back on the Edmonton train. If Edmonton is going the way they're going right now, because I mean they're getting hot again,
Mm-hmm.
and if they can get Fleury without giving rid of a major chunk of that team, if that's the team that they're going with to win,
Yep.
Maybe Campbell, obviously, but to sweeten it up with a few picks or something, or even a prospect or two, I think if you're doing that, that's a win in Edmonton's
Yep.
books.
Absolutely. Let's jump over to another 50-year-old goaltender who just signed out of nowhere. Nikolai Khabibulin decides to sign with KHL Torpedo at the age of 50. So he hasn't played in a couple of years. He hasn't played in the NHL in almost 10. And here he comes flying at 50 years old and just signs a full KHL contract with one of the better leagues in the world. So good for him for jumping back on the horse and getting back in the game.
Well, hey, did you see Luongo put the pads back on in Florida in
Oh, in
practice?
practice? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done that a couple times I've seen, because who better to have as your filling goalie at practice than Luongo?
Well, if I'm Luongo,
Right?
dude, I'm e-bug 100%.
Oh, absolutely he is. Absolutely is. Well,
I
just
think
like
what's his name? Tuukka
Tuukka. Yeah,
Rask, I
exactly.
think is Boston's. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was
that's
just going to
Can you
say.
awesome.
imagine he just comes in for a game? Oh man, that'd be fun to watch.
Well, imagine
Back
if
out
it
of
was
retirement.
Imagine if it was a Stanley Cup game, dude.
That
And
Oh,
Luongo gets to lace him up for a winning game, dude. Oh,
I
that
don't
would
do
be insane.
Luongo and Bob are like the same skill level, so I don't know. Like they're how they both, like, sometimes were super hot and sometimes were so cold it was like terrible. It'd be dangerous.
No, but it'd be awesome though. Like what a story that would be, just to be an e-bug as Luongo to win a Stanley.
Absolutely, that'd be so much fun. I would love it.
Or I guess any ex-NHL goalie being an e-bug would be a cool moment like that. But it
I
was
don't
just
even know if
sad to
it's
not.
ever happened
It was
in a
just sad
Stanley
to see
Cup game.
Luongo not win it in Vancouver.
Yeah. All right, let's
Well,
jump
isn't he
over
an
to
advisor?
the. Oh
Isn't
yeah,
he
he's
an
an advisor.
advisor?
Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah, in Florida.
he's
So technically, he was that close again for the Florida Panthers last year against Boston. There's twice now he was so close.
true. He was assistant GM, I think, is what he is, to Dave Talon. Is Talon the GM?
Dave
Is that his
Talon,
name?
yeah, in
Yeah.
Florida.
All right, well, let's jump over to the 25 free agents to keep your eye on. And this list is in contract cap hit. So the largest cap hit this year to the lowest, and it's the top 25 players. So number one on that list is Steven Stamkos. Then William Nylander, Sam Reinhart, Jake Gensel, Tyler Myers, Adam Henrique, Anthony Mantha, Jordan Eberle, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Tuvo Teravainen. They make up the top 10. So let's break down those top 10 first. I still don't know what's going to happen with Stamkos as a Lightning fan. I think they're going to find a way to make it work for him. I don't think he wants to move. He's got his 2 young boys, best friends with Hedman. He loves living in Tampa. He's committed his whole life there. I can't see him moving, but sometimes dollars talk, and you never know who's going to offer him something big, and he could go somewhere else, just as a John Tavares in the Islanders situation. But to me, Stamkos won't be going anywhere at deadline. I think he's going to stick it out for the year, and if he goes in the off season. What are your guys' thoughts on Willie Nylander, free agent?
I think everyone's going to be watching the deadline heavily to see what happens. If he's not traded then or contract offered by then, like, I don't know, man, Toronto might lose somebody for free. Like somebody good too. Like this could be a Goudreau situation for Tree Living 2.0, but I don't know. It's a tough call, and I think everyone's going to be watching deadline with that name top of their list, even over Stamkos. I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's definitely the top name for sure. With his age, he's only 28 years old. He's the top guy to watch.
Okay, so like if I'm Tree Living going to the deadline, I would want to start ramping up contract talks fast and start getting a ballpark number of what this guy wants, right? Because if we know we're not going to come to the table with him in the summertime, man, just start asking around of what the trade value could be and what assets you can get back for him. Or you could always just trade at the draft, right? I mean,
and if I'm Nylander too, maybe he, because they're all close or whatever, that group of guys, but like, don't you maybe want to show the league by going to a team that doesn't have a number one scorer and go sign there and be that guy? Like sign a 2-year, $11 million deal and then put up back-to-back years, 110 points. And all of a sudden you're on like now an 8-year, because he'll be 30 then. So he'll sign like an 8-year, 11 or 12, 15, whatever $1 million deal, right? Like a much larger deal in a market where he gets to actually prove not being overshadowed. Like Toronto's annoying. It's Matthews is the best player today. Then it's Nylander's the best player tomorrow. Then Marner's the best player the next day after that. Then Tavares has a resurgence. Like, is Tavares still the best player on the Maple Leafs? Like, there's no one that decides who the best player is, and it definitely affects Nylander's stock the most out of all those players.
I'm gonna come in on and second that, because I feel like if he goes somewhere just to be not overshadowed and to be that top scorer that a team doesn't have, I feel like he's gonna be a no-go, because I feel like Willie Nylander is gonna want to play for a team that is a top contender in the league. So I feel like, hey man, if Calgary is able to clear some cap by the deadline, hell, fucking go home and sign with them. But
Good.
with that being said, I mean, again, you could trade him before the deadline, or you could trade him at the draft, or you can just give him what he wants and try to move some of your other BS contracts in Toronto to keep him.
If I'm Nylander, honestly, I want out of Toronto. Even they could make all the moves they want to keep him. I still think his success will be shadowed by what Matthews did.
Exactly.
Nylander, like you said, Nylander could get a hat trick, but a couple games down the road or even next game, Matthews is going to get a hat trick. Matthews could get 2 goals, and that will be completely worth more.
Everybody lose their minds.
Yeah, everyone's going to lose their minds over Matthews' 1 or 2 goals over Nylander's hat trick the game prior.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think he could definitely be a star player on a different contending team. But
I swear, Toronto fans think Austin Matthews is the second coming of Christ.
Yeah, it's the same with Edmonton and McDavid, though. It's just the talent of those players, and unfortunately, Nylander's right in the middle of that with even Marner. I think Marner gets more attention than Nylander does at times.
Hell, even John Tavares.
So I think Toronto is just going to lean towards those guys. If you want to make it work, I get rid of Tavares. If you want those 3 still.
Yeah.
But if I'm Nylander, I'm saying end of this year I'm gone, or
Yeah.
trade me.
And let's move on to another winger, Sam Reinhart, who I think Florida is going to keep. But this makes you wonder something. Okay, William Nylander becomes available. Do the Panthers wait to not re-sign Reinhart, but offer William Nylander like an $8 million contract to come to Florida where he's actually going to keep that? Rather than say he signs $11 million in Toronto, he only makes $5 million. So if he signs an $8 million in Florida, he keeps most of that. Do you risk not signing Reinhart to try and get Nylander?
Like, you're saying Florida gets Nylander?
Yeah, but they let Reinhart walk. So they don't give him an extension. They don't trade him at the deadline. And they wait until free agency day one opens up and leave Reinhart available to see if Nylander is available as their top right winger. Even though Reinhart's playing fantastic for them, they're the same age, and they're going to make around the same money. Who would you rather have?
You know what? I don't really have an answer for that one, but I have an idea of what he could have play out in his head. I'm the Blackhawks GM. I wait it out. I see what Nylander does come near deadline. If he's not traded, well, then I wait till the end of season. You have the second best odds to land Celebrini. Say you land Celebrini, that's another
Yeah.
added piece to their, like, Chicago's brand.
Yeah.
If I'm Nylander, I go Chicago at the end of the year.
Okay.
And
Could you imagine that?
I think you come and help Bedard and their next top draft pick be absolute studs. You build that team around Bedard.
Do you think that's not too big of a shadow, though? Bedard's already built up. Like, don't you think he'll just be going to
No,
another Austin Matthews situation?
no, because I think the media just ruins it for Toronto guys, and I think his time in Chicago would greatly outweigh his time in Toronto playing alongside Bedard. Those two would be insane, dude.
Well, that's why Ryan O'Reilly left. He even publicly came out and said the Toronto media was just too much. They're packs of hyenas in there. Like it's so much pressure. There's certain guys that just don't want that kind of attention. It just yeah, I totally understand that Nylander would want out because of just the amount of pressure and overshadowing in Toronto's market is.
And I mean, Bedard's feeling the love of Chicago night in and night out. I think if he comes in and gels with Bedard and they start showing some spark in that team, he's going to be loved just as much as Bedard is.
Think of a top line of Taylor Hall, Connor Bedard, and William Nylander.
Or even
That's actually a good line.
Celebrini, Bedard, and Nylander.
That's true.
Oh man, you have an insane trio.
Yeah, they got $17.5 million in cap space right now. Like there is 100% fingers being pointed at the Blackhawks. I like that idea. If he were to go to Chicago, that would be a top destination for
And
William
if
Nylander.
the Blackhawks don't have to give up assets to land Nylander and then they end up bad in the draft to get Celebrini, well then you just got two studs for free, man.
And it's funny, they have 2 first-round picks this year, Tampa's and their own. They have 3 second rounders. Like they can make all the moves in the world right now. Chicago is sitting pretty. Other than the scandals that are making them look bad, their draft stock and their cap space are looking really fucking good right now.
Well, and I think Chicago's going to be at a point where it's like, hey, we want Bedard here for a while. Let's make him happy. Let's start being a contender within the next couple of years.
True.
Oh, 100%, yeah, before his entry-level contract's up, right? Start getting them into a playoff team again.
This year alone, he has proven that they're not going to be in a rebuild much longer because he has no one, and he's dominating the way he's dominating. He
Just by
had
himself.
teammates; they were there, but injury to Hall, get the boot for Perry off the team. Like he's playing with Nick Foligno and like Tyler Johnson.
Tyler Johnson, yeah.
And I love Tyler Johnson from his
Ex-Lightning.
days, but like let's be real. There's a reason he was on the fourth line his last year in Tampa. Like his unfortunate production and his small size started to tear off into his 30s. So like, get this guy some real wingers, a real top six, and with Seth Jones anchoring the defense, this team could turn it around pretty quickly. They do need to find a goaltender, though. Have to find a goaltender.
Peter Mrazek, he's a reliable fringe backup, but they need a good starter. They need to either draft good or they just need to bring in somebody, right?
They were looking at goaltenders. They're like, oh, we need a bad goaltender, and they were like, oh, we want Macklin Celebrini. What rhymes with Macklin? Yeah, Mrazek. Yeah, that works. That guy's terrible. Like, he's terrible. So we'll bring him in. And yeah, I mean, it's smart. Why would they have wanted to find a guy who was going to solidify the net? Have a guy who's just going to let shots in from everywhere. Keep that tank going on without saying you're tanking, and keep going for Macklin Celebrini. Because that would be unreal. Like, losing Kane and Tays, and 2 years later you have Bedard and Celebrini. Like, that would be an unreal transition.
And then just a potential just off-season war zone for them, dude.
Exactly.
Just a free agent frenzy for them. If these top 10 guys aren't signed, obviously, but I think Chicago would have a good chance of signing a lot of these guys come free agency.
I think so too. Let's jump to Jake Gensel, who I've heard, you probably have more info, Dally, but that there's no contract talks going on between him and Pittsburgh.
There's crickets. There's crickets going on right now in Pittsburgh, and which is scary because they could potentially keep him. They can, but you know what? Pittsburgh is also aging, and they also need draft. They need draft stock.
Yep.
So you know what? Like I said with William Nylander, you come closer to the draft, you start ramping up talks, and if it ain't happening, well, you know what? Go into the draft, trade him. That's what I would do. I would go into the draft, get a first rounder for, and then they can do a sign and trade.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're doing that at the draft, you almost get a next year's first because you're not guaranteeing Gensel to sign with that team.
Yeah, I feel like it's a conditional first.
No, I would definitely do a 25. I would definitely do a 25, not a 24.
It would still be conditional.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It would have to be a conditional 25.
Because I would say, okay, I'll give you a 4th round pick, conditional first round. So if he doesn't sign with me, you get a 4th round pick. We tried, we did our best. We wanted to show him that we wanted him. But if not, if we do sign him, you can have our first, right? But if it's a sign and trade, sure. But I still think that your value is lost by them because really they're just like, well, we want the guy, but we can wait a week. And when he's a free agent in a week, we give nothing for him. And if we outbid, we win. If we lose the bid, well, at least we didn't gain nothing. We didn't lose nothing, right? So I think it's hard to trade free agents at the draft. It's almost impossible because
you don't
know.
You almost need term on a contract if you're trading at the draft.
Yeah, well, he's got 38 points in 33 games. Regardless, I'm pretty sure if they can't come to terms, they're going to trade him at the NHL deadline come February. Hopefully, they can get a decent first and hopefully a top prospect.
Even at the deadline, I still don't see him getting a current year first round. I still see it as a conditional.
Yeah, protected like top 10. Maybe not.
I think it's still just going to come down to contract.
Yeah.
Like deadline, draft day, it's still going to be a conditional pick due to we don't know if he wants to be on this team. That's just all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. Well, 4 of the next 5 guys, I think we can pretty much guarantee they won't be back on their teams. We got Tyler Myers, Adam Henrique, Anthony Mantha, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Jordan Eberle. Eberle's the only one I see as a potential returnee to their team. I think Bertuzzi's plan always was to re-sign with Toronto somehow, but let's be real, the experiment has gone terrible. He's finding the bench more than he's finding the goal sheet. Bertuzzi's gone. Mantha's gone. Washington's over Mantha. He needs a new start. Henrique, I think it's time he gets a fresh start. And Myers with the trading of Zadorov in. Sounds like they can't afford Myers anymore in their decor. So it sounds like he's out the door.
Here's some interesting names too, like Tarasenko. I can't see him re-signing with at Ottawa. He's gonna want to have one last hurrah. He's getting up there in age. You know, he had a great run with the St. Louis Blues in their championship run. Ottawa, they're not winning right now. I can see him moving on. TJ Brody, I mean, too, even for Toronto, he's
He's
picking
gone.
up $5 million. He's gone. He's gonna be
Not
gone.
unless he re-signs for like $900K. They can't
Oh,
bring him back.
he's gonna have to really bring his value down. And then we got Dakota's Flames. You got Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm, who could also have been heavily talked into trades recently.
I think
So
that's the biggest
That's
core
$8 million
stack.
right there between the two of them.
Of this list, those 4 players in a row there, Jonathan Marchessault, Noah Hannafin, Elias Lindholm, and Victor Olofsson. Those are 4 players who are really good ads for one team, but they're for Hannafin and Lindholm, like they're going to be looking for 8+. Same with Marchessault. Marchessault's 33 years old. Don't think he's not asking 8+. This is his last contract in the NHL. If he signs like a 5-year plus, there's no way he's not going to ask for $8 million to try and make as much money as he can.
Well, I think when contract talks halted with Calgary and those guys, I think Hannafin was $7 million, not sure how many years. And I think
7
Lindholm,
by 7, I think.
and I think Lindholm was looking around 8 or 9
mil, yeah.
Now, I'm glad Calgary's not going through with that. If I had to choose one, I would hope they get Hannafin re-signed. But I see both those guys gone by deadline.
Yeah, and they should be. You guys need the change in scenery in your team.
Now, with the Bertuzzi thing, I could see Bertuzzi staying in Toronto over Domi, though.
It's him or Domi.
Domi as well has been finding the bench more than the score sheet too, so that's a tough gamble.
If Bertuzzi's willing to take less than 5, I could
That's
see Bertuzzi staying over Domi.
He's going to go into the open market and say, hey, last year was a mistake. I did not fit their system like I thought I would. And you know who's probably going to come calling? The Boston Bruins. They're going to be like, hey, come on back. We really liked you here. Like, let's have you back on the team. And I think that's who he's going to end up with because he fit that system so well.
Even if I'm Detroit, I look at him back.
Yeah.
At the end of this year, if he's a free agent, I welcome him back to Detroit with open arms.
Yeah. As a second, third line winger.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And him and Larkin always had good chemistry. So, like a Larkin, DeBrincat, and
Bertuzzi.
Bertuzzi line, like, not bad.
And Patty Kane, too, even.
I'm not going to lie. I would also love to see Tyler Bertuzzi rock a Canucks uniform. Just me personally. But that would look sick.
All right. Let's jump on to our top NHL prospects. They have 40 here. We're not going to go through them all. They have them ranked 1 to 40. But I just mainly wanted to discuss with you guys that they have Matvei Michkov as the number 1 ranked NHL prospect. Now, this is a prospect that it noted like hasn't played 9 games in the league and hasn't played any other pro games in North America. So these guys fall into that category. Well, I guess Brent Clark, for some reason, is there. But we'll say he's there. But Michkov is number 1, and I don't think he is number 1. That's quite the leap, considering he was being benched by his Russian team to start the year and had to be loaned to a lesser league team. I don't know how you say he's the number 1 overall NHL prospect because we have guys like Logan Stankoven who are destroying the AHL in scoring right now with 35 points in 24 games or something. And then you have guys like Simon Edvinsson who just got called up to Detroit, who's playing extremely well down in Grand Rapids. And you have Brant Clark playing extremely well in the Ontario Reign. So to me, how do you call Matvei Michkov number 1 is my thing.
I think it's got to be the hype that came behind that name in that draft year. And he's in a league where he plays against men, right? I believe. He's playing with guys older than him, I mean.
Yeah.
As where a lot of these other guys are playing hockey with the same age group. or within a couple of year range. But right now, I wouldn't put Michkov as number one. I think with the hype around his name, top 5 for sure.
Definitely not number one.
But or just not even have him on the list. You know, like this is a kid that hasn't played with any of these guys or been in the league of these guys. So to say that he's number one is a little steep. But
well, here's some guys on the list: Will Smith, Brant Clark, Cutter Gauthier, and Lane Hudson. They make up the top 5. I would argue that Lane Hudson is better than Matthew Michkov and Cutter Gauthier. But then you have Danila Yurov, Stankoven, Ryan Leonard, Shane Wright, and Alexander Nichishkin rounding out the top 10. Again, another guy, Shane Wright, I don't think he's a top 10 prospect in the NHL.
He's dropping.
Of all the prospects, he should be dropping. He's not doing bad. He has about 17 points in 21 games or whatever, so he's not doing bad for the Coachella Valley. But he's also proving that he is really lacking in a lot of developmental areas and understanding the game. He just kind of seemed to have relied on his size to get to where he did. But the second batch, the 11 to 20 prospects, Gabe Perreault, Sandy Palinka, Edvinson, Kulich, Zellweger, Savoy, Lambert, McGroarty, Nadeau, and Matejchuk. I would argue Edvinson is better than Michkov. You have a guy like Savoy that could potentially be, he was taken after Michkov, but you just never know with these Russian kids when they come over, can they actually transition to the NHL? So there's a few guys, and even down below, like they have Jimmy Snuggerud ranked 27th, Dalibor Daborski and Geeky are 26 and 25. David Reinbacher was just 5th overall. Somehow he's 24, right? Jonathan Leckermacky, who we've been talking about, 22nd overall, who's in the final 10. They have Oliver Moore, Tristan Leno, who's played in the NHL this year, Joachim Kemmel, and Braden Yeager. So they have a lot of guys here that are right in the same realm as Michkov. So I don't know how they named him number one. Again, I think you're right. I think this is just about hype.
Yeah, okay, so like, what about a leading scorer in the American Hockey League in Maverick Bourque? Like, he's an amazing prospect. You know, Jake Neighbors of the St. Louis Blues. Like, there are definitely some snubs on that list that I definitely
I think
that
Neighbors
needs to be
just
looked
qualified
over.
out because he made the Blues this year. I think he qualifies out of this list because he's played about 20 games.
Neighbors was a 2020 draft as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is his first full year as a Blue.
Yeah, so he's finally out, which is, he would be definitely on this list as one of the top prospects for sure. I just think, even like Brant Clark is probably the best prospect, and then of current talent right now, probably Logan Stankoven right behind him and Simon Edvinson rounding out the top 3 because those guys are in the AHL. They're dominating the AHL, and they're showing that they're ready to take the next step. They just haven't been given the chance to stick. Like Edvinson was sent right back down. Again, he played his game, sent right back down. So they're not really being given a chance to dominate the way that they can.
Well, and not only is Logan prospect, he's also a rookie that's top rookie scoring in the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, Brant Clark in 1, Stankoven 2, just because as a rookie he's dominating all rookies, a point per game player.
Over a point per, he's at like 1.25.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he needs to get a little bit more recognition in this list. But again, this list was probably made weeks ago or a couple weeks ago.
I don't remember when I picked it up, but I saw it and I thought we'd chance it. But let's jump from. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You got one more thing.
No, I was just gonna finally say that this again is probably all just hype around the name,
and it could be whoever made the list, just their preference too, right? Like it's just someone's list, and we're just reading it off. And I just thought we'd have a good debate on it. But we'll jump from who has been drafted now to who has the highest chances for the first overall pick in the 2024 Macklin Celebrini Cole Iserman NHL draft. So we have at 25.5% the San Jose Sharks, who could really use Macklin Celebrini. Let me tell you what, they could really use him. And then we have the Blackhawks at 13.5, the Ducks at 11.5, the Blue Jackets at 9.5, Sens at 8.5, Sabres at 7.5, Kraken at 6.5%, Flames at 6%, Oilers at 5%, and the Red Wings at 3.5%. So again, Chicago, I don't want them to go to Chicago. Like, that would just be the craziest setup ever. I don't know if NHL fans could handle that. Like, the whole sex scandal thing, and then them getting Bedard, and then they still don't get penalized, even though someone else just came out that saying they had a sex scandal from that same video coach, and now the Blackhawks still aren't punished from that. And then it's like, this first round pick gets some celebrity. Like, I don't think the NHL world can handle it, and it would just.
Dude, they're gonna rig the they're gonna rig the draft. They're gonna make sure they get it. They need so much positive publicity to overshadow all that negativity.
I think it just draws more negativity. I think it draws more negativity to them because the rest of the hockey world is so frustrated. Like, teams that have never got the first overall pick. Like, I think San Jose is one of them.
So is Calgary.
And Anaheim. And Columbus. Like, in those top four, you have San Jose, Anaheim, and Columbus, who have never had the first overall pick. Calgary's never had it. Seattle's never had it. Like,
Edmonton's had it too many times.
Yeah, Edmonton, start getting better. Like, get out of here. You don't need... If they get him, they need to trade Draisaitl. They need to trade McDavid. They need to just reset again, because they've clearly failed if they get the first overall pick again. Or they should trade it, finally, for a package of stuff of good players from someone who needs the pick, because they do not need this pick.
I think Ottawa's got a better chance at the odds than even Columbus, because like Ottawa's 3 points behind Columbus in the East too. But honestly, my take is I like the Sharks' odds at getting celebrating. He would look awesome in a Sharks jersey, man. I'm telling you,
he'd fit that San Jose.
He would, yeah. Play for an American team.
Guy. Yeah, and I don't want him to go to a place that is stacked at center, right? Like, really, you have Bedard in Chicago. You have Zegras and McTavish in Anaheim. You have Fantilli in Columbus, and Johnson.
Well, you got Fantilli, Johnson, Sillinger.
Exactly, like, they're loaded with young centers. Then you have like Ottawa with Brady Tkachuk, and like they shouldn't get him. They're beyond him still. Like, they should be a better team than they are. Then the Sabres, you got like Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins, and Peyton Krebs, like, and Middlestad.
Well, Brady Tkachuk's not a center, just so you know.
He has played center this year, actually. This is his first year. Just for whatever reason. He's taking face-offs. I think they wanted to give him more responsibility. Or he asked for it. I don't know which one it was. But I saw a whole thing on it. For some reason, he was taking face-offs. He's taking center.
Oh, well, then Calgary needs to start tanking, man. We need some better centers. Get rid of Kadri. Get rid of Lindholm.
Exactly. Yeah, you guys do. You guys have Zary, who can play the wing. He doesn't need to be a center, even though he's actually playing well when he does play center. But you guys have, like, Dubé, he's gone.
Dubé, who's been on the wing. Most of our centers that were considered centers are all moved to the wing.
Yeah.
So
for guys you've added, pretty much. But it's like, yeah, it's basically Calgary if they go rebuild or retool. Maybe Seattle. I could see Seattle, him and Beniers, 1-2 punch. That would be cool. And then San Jose. But San Jose is the perfect fit. There is no better fit than San Jose, to me.
Take Logan Couture's spot when he retires, right? He could be the next, big center.
He doesn't know if he'll play again. His back injury or whatever he's got, he doesn't know. So then they're going to trade Hurdle. They're going to trade LeBanc. They're going to try and drop Vlasic. Like,
it'd be perfect fit to take over Couture's spot.
And they could finally name another captain and move on.
And he'll play with Will Smith, and it'd be perfect.
Exactly. Oh, I forgot about Will Smith. Yeah, him and Will Smith.
Yeah, Will Smith.
That's a nasty 1-2 punch, too.
Well, they
right?
have, who'd they draft a couple of years ago?
San Jose. Zetterland? Fabian Zetterland?
Is it Zetterland?
Or Eklund. Are you thinking Eklund?
Eklund. William
Yeah,
Eklund.
Eklund.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's been good this year.
He has been.
Him and Hurdle have been like lighting it up for fantasy points this year. Actually, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, just a couple guys on San Jose that get the bump. Everyone else is
Hey
flaming.
man, I picked them up. Been killing it for me.
Yeah.
I agree that he would look sick in San Jose, but I think he'd look a lot more sick in Chicago. As
I thought you were gonna say Calgary.
bad as well, I would say Calgary, but nothing's gonna go in Calgary's way, unfortunately, for the next few years. But as bad as to Chicago as it sounds with all the scandals, I think it would be hyped.
Oh,
I
it would
think
be, but
I think Chicago is looking for that new Taves and Kane duo, and if you can move Macklin to the left wing or something, or even the right side, it'd be insane.
I would compare it more to like a Crosby Malkin duo.
1 and
1 year
2.
apart. Well, like 1 year apart, 1-2 center. Sometimes, like in situations, Malkin goes up to the wing, right? Like it would
Or
be
just
rotational, but
watching them on like a power play or something.
oh, it'd be disgusting
It would be.
because yeah, one's right-handed, one's left-handed. Like, what do you do? That's just insane. Or is Macklin
Back,
right-handed? Because Bedard's right.
Yeah, Bedard's right. I don't know
I
when
think
Macklin
Macklin's
shoots.
left after what? Yeah, Macklin's left.
man, I think a lot of people forget the old 1-2-3 punch in Pittsburgh when they drafted back to back to back. Jordan Stahl, man, he was amazing
Right.
when he was young for the Pittsburgh Penguins there from '06 to '09. Like just an animal.
Then you guys
Another
traded
great
him and
center.
got him back.
Yeah, gone to Carolina.
All right. Let's jump into our weekly segments here. Let's jump into game day reviews. Dallas, you have Los Angeles Kings. Dakota, you have the Chicago Blackhawks. And I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. All right. And again, we randomize these, so we have no idea who we're getting. We jump into this pretty much unprepared, and we just fire off what we think about this team. And Dakota, we basically did your job for you today. But
Oh yeah,
whoever wants to start.
we just went on a tear about Chicago. Yeah, don't expect too much from this team. Obviously, other than Bedard being the hype train around this team. Uh, I don't think they're really caring too much about making the playoffs, other than watching their bright future shine bright in front of their faces on the ice, and again, a team fighting for that number one overall. Yeah, that's the Blackhawks.
That is the Blackhawks in a nutshell. There's nothing else there. Everyone is either injured or playing. Like there's no news at all.
Yeah,
That's who they are.
it's just welcome to the Bedard show.
Yeah. You want to take
Moving.
LA or you want me to go?
Oh, I'll take LA. I mean, moving to
Whichever.
SoCal. I mean, you still got the relevant Kings. I mean, they're still staying top of the West year after year, and I mean, right now they got 3.2 million cap. I mean, they might make a move come deadline. I love when they got Victor Arvidsson. That was a great acquisition. Lafreniere has been coming up and producing. The hype around him. It's paying off. Quentin Byfield of all players now, the number
He
two
has
pick.
turned it up.
He has honestly turned it up, and I'm proud of him. I'm happy for the guy. A 2020 second round pick who went after Lafreniere, who the two of them have been a lot of rumors basically behind them saying like, are they going to get moved? Like, when are they ever going to start blossoming? But they have. In 2023,
Yeah.
they have blossomed, and Quentin Byfield has elevated his game to a new level. So congrats to him as well. Yeah, I mean, LA still.
Kings as a whole, honestly, I don't think they had a big ceiling for this team, right? I mean, you got your starting goalie is Cam Talbot.
Mm-hmm.
And he
And
has been
Phoenix gone.
another welcoming surprise to the Kings.
And to see that Fiala's still doing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Kopitar.
Kopitar still being a good player. Doughty. I think they probably still want to see a little bit more out of Dubois, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely more out of Dubois, but
they gave up Alex Iafallo and Curtis Gabriel to the Jets, and I mean, it's showing right now as it stands. The Jets have won the trade, but PLD he might start blossoming in LA. You just got to get comfortable. But we'll see how long it takes, right?
Going back to Byfield, this is also about Team Canada World Juniors, about Byfield and Lafreniere. The Team Canada World Junior team this year has 15 kids who have never played for Team Canada at any level, at the U17s, U18s, or the U20s. That was a record set, and they said because these are the COVID kids, the kids who they had problems scouting them, they weren't able to be watched as much, so it's kind of a crapshoot about who's good and who's not. You can really see that in the first year draft with the Lafreniere and Byfield draft, that it really has been a crapshoot the last 3 or 4 years, but it finally seems like they're able to get it nailed down this year. Having 15 out of 23 kids never play for Canada but be on Canada's World Junior team is quite a large percentage, especially with the returning players. So it was exactly what you're saying about Byfield. Like, they finally, 2023, 3 years later, have taken the step, and we're seeing that, yes, they actually were good players.
You want to feel old? Is that they did an interview with the 2023 Team Canada team, and they said, "What was your favorite World Juniors moment growing up?" And a lot of them said the Alexis Lafreniere year in World Juniors, and I'm like, damn,
because they were like 15 years old. Oh my goodness!
Right?
Well, it's crazy to see that all the 2020 drafted guys are all showing up this year.
Mm-hmm. Except for Stützle, he was already here.
Well, yeah, he was already.
Stützle is an animal, absolute beast.
It just seems like all the 2020 draft first rounders seem to be all making that big push for their clubs this year, though.
Definitely. All right, I'll jump into the Lightning here, who may be the most confusing team in the NHL. They are stressful to cheer for. They are heartbreaking on any given night. Like last night, I saw a lot of people in Tampa Bay chat mad that the reffing was a little stingy at the end of the game versus Florida last night. But at the end of the day, it was a 2-2 game if Tampa didn't give up yet another short-handed goal. And it was the most lackadaisical defending you've ever seen. Reinhart basically got to just walk in and score short-handed to make it 3-1. Tampa did score on that same power play then to make it 3-2. But it was like if they just didn't get scored on, it would have been a 2-2 game. So they're leading the league, I think, with 6 shorthanded goals against. Their power play is second in the league or third in the league. So they are on the worst and best spectrum on the power play. It's the weirdest thing. They are dominating in goals for, but they are terrible in goals against. They have 117 goals for, which is second most in their division, but they have 109 goals against, which is they have 120 goals for and 123 goals against. So like they are really still a -3 in goals, even though they scored 120 goals. That's more goals than the Maple Leafs, that's more goals than the Panthers, and that's more goals than the Bruins have all scored. But the Bruins have 30 less goals against than the Lightning do. So they're struggling to defend, even though they're scoring. They're getting scored on at about 4 goals a game, and they're only scoring at about 3 goals a game. So
they were also without Vaz for a long time there too. So you had their backups like just really get pelted.
But he was good. He has 3 shutouts this year. Like, he actually held the fort, and I think if you look, I might even look here, what's the leaders? The leaders for shots against in the league, I'm pretty sure he is still in the top 10. No, he's 16th in the league. He hasn't played he's played 1 game in the last 10, and he's still 16th in the league in shots against. That's how far ahead he was when Vazzy came back. So this team, they're confusing. They're weird to understand. You wonder, is getting rid of Stamkos good, even though he's having a dominant year? Do they need that money to fill out the team? The defense is weak, but it's the system. To me, I keep saying this, I love John Cooper, my favorite coach. He'll forever, probably till the day I die, I'll say there's no better NHL coach than John Cooper was when he coached Tampa Bay Lightning, in my opinion. But it seems to not be working for them anymore. They don't seem to be able to keep a consistent play. They're sluggish. The second period issues we've talked about, where they're scored on in the first 5 minutes of every period, pretty much. The second period, they're outscored by 2 to 3 goals almost every game. So when a pattern starts to occur, it goes beyond the players and it goes to the system, and the system is the coaches.
So, hey man, all good things come to an end.
Exactly, and
you might need a coaching change.
They should do it before the team implodes. Let him have his dominant record he has. Let him have all the accolades, and just say that the team decided to part ways. And like, I mean, here's the thing: the Ottawa Senators just said that they're probably going to keep Jax Martin as their coach for the remainder of the year instead of hiring someone. If John Cooper were to come available, you are going to see 5 or 6 coaches fired. Like, they're going to be calling, be like, "Is John Cooper? Do you want to come here?" Get boom, your coach is fired. Like, obviously, if they don't get a confirmation, they won't fire their coach. But you'll see teams ready to pull the trigger on their coach to get him immediately. But I think that might be the way that Tampa Bay needs to look at it, because they have Kucherov leading the league in points. Stamkos is still more than a point per game. Points still scoring at the same rate, but they just can't defend, and they don't have any heart in their game like they did when they were the team that could always find a way to win when they were winning cups.
Well, and when they were winning cups, it's essentially the same roster that they've had for that many years since Yzerman's been that coach, and it's been left with Cooper. So
exactly,
I'm just going to continue with my thought that I think it's just age showing on this team.
I just don't know. They only really have like 2 of their stars over 30, though. Kucherov's only 29. Point is our age. He's only 27. Vasilevsky's 26. Like, or 28. No, he's 28, sorry. And like, Chernak is 25. Sergachev's 25. Like, realistically, their roster is still very young. It's just Stamkos and Hedman that are 33 and 32 that are starting to kind of creep up there. Other than some of their depth. Like, they have Glendening, who's in his 30s. I think Mott's 31 or 30. But they have Paul, who's in his 20s. Hagel's in his 20s. Like, so their core is still in their 20s. They just can't seem to get them to win for whatever reason.
Because I think these guys that are your depth guys are overpaid depth guys. I think if you have Hagel on any other team, he's not Tampa Bay Hagel.
No.
Overpaying.
And now we're paying him $6.75 million or whatever we're paying him now.
And what was he making in Chicago?
1.25.
Oh my god.
Until he still is on that deal. He signed a 3-year, $1.25 million deal with Chicago. We traded for him in year 1 of that contract. So then we got him in year 2, and this is year 3. Next year he ticks over to the 6.75.
Man, I think it's a phenomenon.
How much is Paul making?
Paul is actually a really good deal. I was just gonna say Paul is the best contract they have. He's 7 years, which is long, but he's only at 3.7 mil. So he's still quite low, which is good. If he was any higher, it would be bad. And they also did a really smart thing. He has no trade protection as well on his deal. So that's one thing that's pretty smart. That's kind of the only thing Brisebois did, is like really limited trade protection on all these guys he's re-signing, which means hopefully he can get out of these guys. Like, Hagel doesn't have any, I don't think. Paul doesn't have any. Sergachev doesn't have any. Chernak doesn't have any. So like, these guys that he re-signed, he didn't protect them and basically screw the team over like he did with their top guys that all are protected right now. Kucherov, Point, Vazzy, Stamkos, Hedman, right? Like, all those guys with their no trades. So it looks like he knew in the future that the transition would come, and he wanted to be able to move them without having to ask them, which is the best case scenario. Well, Cirelli too. Cirelli's on a pretty friendly deal, $6 million for 8 more years or whatever he's at.
Yeah, but even him though, like, I don't know what he's at this year, but I don't see that name getting tossed around too much anymore. Like,
no, he was hurt a couple times this year, but yeah, he went from being like top 3 Selke voting to kind of not perform. But he did go on he scored like 5 straight games to kind of get back into the swing of things. So at least he did come back. But yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this team. They have the team to do it. They have the championship leadership to do it. But whatever they're doing on the ice as a group of 5 isn't working, and they don't seem to have the heart when it comes down to it to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Cooper's play style with Tampa just isn't the best play style to have against these other teams anymore. Because I feel like Tampa Bay, like, they're an elite team, but I think they're a team that could be easily gassed.
And again, I don't want to throw the shade on Cooper totally, but I want to talk about Derek Lalonde, the new head coach of the Detroit Red Wings. He's been Detroit's head coach for 2 years. Tampa has had Jeff Blashill take his place for 2 years. Look at the difference in our team. We went from having Lalonde as our situational coach, winning 2 Stanley Cups, him then going to Detroit. We lost in the Cup final, and then we lost last year to Toronto, and it's like this year we're downhill, and it's like maybe it was Lalonde who was the guy that was, because look at what he's doing in Detroit, right? He has that team humming much better than maybe they should be, and Tampa's faltering. It's like maybe Lalonde was the key here. Maybe it wasn't so much Cooper and the other coaches. Maybe it was Lalonde. That's something I've been thinking of with how good he's doing in Detroit.
Did you see the? I think I've seen Ottawa say that they're unwilling to sign Alfredson as their coach due to the fact that they don't want to fire him if things go south.
Exactly. He's just the interim assistant coach, and then he's going to go back to his advisor to the GM role. Basically, that's the best job.
That would suck. That would suck if he was head coach and got fired. They don't need that kind of headline.
I think that's exactly why they refuse to do that. Is because he's such a big name in that franchise that would be...
Dude, I wouldn't want to be the one to tell him, hey man, you're fired, by the way. Hell no.
You're franchise player. You just have to be like, yeah, guys.
Exactly. But what a job, though. Advisor to the general manager. All these guys like Jason Spezza and stuff that are getting...
Jerome McGinley.
Jerome, literally, whatever they're making. Maybe it's not much, but
just gravy, dude.
You just get a call from the general manager. Hey, being an NHL player, what do you think of this? And it's like, oh, well, guys don't like that. What an easy job to just have and be like, yeah, I just advise the general manager. What does that even mean?
Right. The GM doesn't necessarily have to agree with what you're advising, but you could still advise it.
Exactly. Just the middleman, really. You're getting paid to be a middleman.
They fly you in to advise, you go out for beers with your buddy, and then you just fly home. No real advising going on. But I don't know. What a cushy job. Well, that was it for Game Day Reviews. Let's jump on to our final segment of the day, Battle of the Tarps. We have, in our randomizer, we got away jerseys. OHL is the league, and North Bay Battalion is the team. And then we got home jerseys in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, and Canmore Eagles are the team. And let's go through those two. So we have North Bay Battalion we're going to start off with. And I want to hear your guys' takes because, frankly, I don't know which way to lean on this one.
I like the idea behind the battalion. I get why their color scheme is what it is. But just the uniform as a whole to be that snot green, that, I don't know. I don't like the color scheme and how they portrayed it. So I gotta go with the Alberta team. But I'm for the battalion's reasoning.
I like both color schemes. I really do. I will say though, Canmore's logo sells it for me. I do like the black and blue trim. But if I'm going with the OHL North Bay Battalion, I'd say the color scheme looks really good. The logo, not so much. However, they did just release a Heritage jersey, boys, and it's the North Bay Sens jersey, so retro. And it's black and white and yellow with a tank. Okay. So look that up. Cool. It's definitely a different take, but yeah, I'm still gonna go with North Bay. I really like their jerseys. I still say they're one of the best in the O. So that'll be my pick for the night. I'm gonna go with North Bay. There's nothing wrong, except for maybe the logo looks a little too cartoonish, but
yeah, I don't like the logo. I'm definitely throwing that out there. I think it's kind of dumb. But what cheesy. I love about the jersey is the patches that they put on, soldiers have on their uniforms, right? The rank patches on the arms. Then there's the name patch that comes up here on the arm in red. It says North Bay, but to me, it's just keeping to the style is very cool. The goaltender we have in the back of this photo, I mean, the pads look sweet. I think that is one of the cooler pad setups you could have. But I really don't like the logo. I don't really like the green. There's so many army greens you could have gone with. That has to be something to do with what the battalion actually must wear. Like, there must be an army base in North Bay, and that must be their colors scheme that they use or whatever, because no other reason that they just
Well,
randomly like saw someone puke and was
they
like, that's the way.
well, it's not really North Bay that they're paying homage to, is because when they were in Brampton, they had the same logo and also the same color scheme in Brampton,
Right. I
Ontario.
forgot about the
So
Brampton Battalion. I forgot about them.
it's I think I think maybe they could have rebranded when they moved from Brampton to North Bay, but they wanted to just keep it simple. But I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
But my pick is definitely going to the Canmore Eagles here. I mean, that logo is one of the better logos I've ever seen. The detail in it with the eagle is cool. The jersey does lack a little bit. It kind of is like a Winnipeg Jets third dark blue, right? Without the one that they wore without the red in it. But it's okay. But I think, to me, it comes down to logos, and the Eagles walk away with this one.
I mean,
Well,
personally, like, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even like with the Eagles, like that's such like it's a color scheme that you see on more than one team. You got the Rimouski Oceanic, I believe, are the same color scheme.
There's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
that are
that
black, blue,
Alberta
and white.
team, and then like you said, Winnipeg Jets. So like I like that North Bay has like that variety of color,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, again, it's just the green that throws it off for me. It's just a gross green. There was a lot better greens to choose from. If there's a reason behind that green, whatever. But the green just kills it for me.
Yeah, I kind of like what the logo here they did with Canmore too. Like, it almost reminds me, boys, of like the Portland Winterhawks of the Western Hockey League. Like, you got like the silhouette of the mountains on the bottom with like the eagle head on top. Like, it looks so good.
Exactly.
Like, the
It's
logo
got like the
sells it for me.
Rockies, because
Yeah.
Canmore's in the Rocky Mountains. So like, to have the Rocky Mountain ridgeline with that eagle with the blue streaks in it, and they kind of like, it's almost like a sun or a moon circle, right? So it kind of gives you like either the sun or the moon vibe, whichever one you're thinking of. So to me, yeah, it's just the logo alone wins it, because I am split on the two.
And I like the color. I like the choice of blue. They went for the accent, like at the bottom in their sleeves. Like, that kind of blue, like almost represents like the turquoise blue lakes of Alberta too, in the Rockies. Just crystal
Yeah,
clear turquoise. Like, I think that's what they're paying homage to, maybe. But yeah,
should
that's
be.
a nice slick color of blue.
All right, so the winner of this one, we're going to put this up on our polls. We're going to put it up on all of our social media. You can repost or you can like. Repost for North Bay, like for Canmore Eagles. That will determine who goes on to take the next semifinal bracket of our December bracket versus Flin Flon Bombers. We're going to have Acadia Bathurst versus Ljubljana, and we're going to have the winner of this versus Flin Flon Bombers in our semifinal bracket for the December tarp of the month that we will be doing. So that basically wraps it up for episode 17 of Gameday Tarps podcast. As always, follow us on all social media. Find us on all streaming platforms for podcasts. And thanks everyone for listening.